Yeah, it's all about helping each other. Mental health for Black, Indigenous, people of color. It's time to normalize therapy. Feeling like you drowning? You need SG, mental health counseling. Unhealthy family
CEO of SG Mental Health Counseling, where we provide a safe space for all, working to normalize mental health so that we can inspire, educate, and empower. On today's YouTube video, we're gonna talk about my story and some of the struggles that I had with my own mental health. So before we get started, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, SG Mental Health Counseling, and then also on our social media platforms, which is going to be SG Mental Health Co. on Instagram and Facebook, and with TikTok. Y'all know I hate TikToking. It's going to be SG Mental. And if you know of anyone that needs mental health services or coaching services, go over to our website, which is going to be www.sgmentalhealthservices.com. So let's get into it. Man, it's been a long time coming. So with my mental health, it probably started when I was a young age. I was a victim of childhood sexual abuse, and it was a struggle. I thought it was my fault. Luckily for me, as you know, with many families, when you go and share with your loved ones the truth, my mom actually heard, and my voice was heard, and she went and called the police, and it was taken away. I was temporarily removed to go stay with my aunt. A lot of these memories I don't remember because I blocked them out. It's a phase in my life, like I said, that caused me a lot of mental angst and just didn't want to deal with it. So now it's kind of hard to go back and revisit the trauma. But one thing I can tell you is that I had a wonderful childhood advocate from the state attorney's office, Miss Loretta, youarethebomb.com. She really helped me understand what I was going through and knowing that it was not my fault and that it was something that I experienced, but it wasn't defining who I am. Now, to be completely honest with you, when I was removed and I was court-ordered and had to go to counseling, I probably had to be somewhere, and it was in elementary school, so I was maybe like 10 or so, maybe even younger, but I was court-ordered to go to therapy, and I just kind of went through the motions. I didn't see any therapy as a benefit to me at that young of an age. There was definitely not any talk about the importance of mental health and dealing with that. So I went through the motions. I said what I had to say, did what I needed to do, and was able to finish up therapy. But guess what, y'all? Yes, I do say y'all because I'm from the South. But guess what? That trauma was still there. Those feelings of guilt and shame and depression were all still there. Because I didn't do the work that I needed to do with therapy, I didn't heal. Definitely not on my terms. And I found myself struggling with depression all through my childhood, my teenage years. I would probably say the next time that I dealt with depression or post-traumatic stress disorder was being a witness to domestic violence. So not only was it myself, but my siblings also witnessed it as well. So we all have some form related to PTSD and wow. One of the things that I knew was that that was something that I personally did not want to go through when I started dating, was because of what I saw my loved ones go through, and that it was brutal, y'all. It was brutal, and there was nothing I could do. You know, as a child, obviously you're basically seen, but you're not heard. That was the culture at that time that was in my house. We could go and say how we felt, but it was just basically your feelings. And you know, definitely with my mom, she was, as she grew and matured, should I say, as she matured, she learned how to help us through some of these things. But you know, with her going through her own trauma, because remember, part of this is acknowledgement, and sometimes we're not ready to acknowledge the trauma or the things that have happened to us. And from there, so you know, you have so let's talk about these layers I'm putting on of trauma. The first layer was sexual abuse. The second layer was being a witness to domestic violence. The third one was grief and loss. I mean, heavy, you guys. In high school, my dear band teacher, Martha Stark, made such an impact on who I am because I suffered from depression. I learned how to play clarinet, and with the clarinet, that was my safe haven. That was my way to express how I'm feeling on my terms. So oftentimes in therapy, I will utilize music therapy in sessions, because it's one way of the therapeutic ways that I like to use as an intervention. But seeing her go through and fight her fight with cancer, and then ultimately passing away, it shook my world, you all, more than I would ever know. And you know, those people, those classmates of mine who went to, you know, my high school, who felt that same pain, that same loss, I felt like I was lost. I remember just not wanting to live anymore. I remember, you know, falling into this deep sorrow. It was more than just your typical grief and loss when somebody dies. I mean, I was in it, y'all, for several years. So, you know, anything beyond 2 years is major depressive disorder, so dysthymia. And I struggled. And I just didn't care about my appearance. I didn't care so much about trying to make friends. So because I was different, right? I didn't listen to the music that everybody listened to. I didn't wear the clothes that everybody wore. You know, coming from a single parent home with 5 kids, a lot of the clothes, unfortunately, I had to wear were, you know, hand-me-downs or something that was given to us. You know, and thank God for community resources. We're going to talk about that one in another video, about how communities helped in a time of need. That's what they're there for. And if you need them, go get them. But with that, I had a difficult time. I didn't have anyone at the time that could really help guide me in my depression, and it impacted things. So, you know, loss of interest in those things that you used to do is a symptom of depression. For me, what did that look like? I didn't want to play the clarinet anymore. Now, you already know, if you knew me in high school, you knew that I loved the clarinet just as much as I love Miss Stark. And so I didn't want to play the clarinet anymore. I had heavy isolation. I really didn't want to be surrounded by people. I just kind of did my day-to-day thing, you know, my normal things. My grades started.
Yeah, it's all about helping each other. Mental health for Black, Indigenous people of color. It's time to normalize therapy. Feeling like you drowned.